This morning, I was driving or riding my bike into town, and I happened to notice as I was stopped at a stoplight that there was a bunch of cops around, and they were giving out tickets to people for being on their phone while on their bike. Meanwhile, I'm standing here on my bike with a croissant, and I'm like, I wonder if the law applies for croissants, but thankfully they didn't pull me over. Anyway, I feel like the croissants here are ridiculously good. Way better than anything we could find in the US. Like Starbucks, oh, they're so dry and gross. And then Costco makes some pretty good croissants, but they're not really flaky or airy or crispy, I guess you could say. They're a lot more on the softer side. Now the croissants here are crazy flaky. They're super buttery. You just touch them and they start to crumble, and when you put them in your mouth, they just have this gratifying crunch. Now, whether or not the croissants here are actually better is a matter of perspective. I mean, I'm here in Europe. Everything else seems to be better here, so maybe I'm making it up, or maybe I'm not. I'm actually planning on renting a car this weekend and driving down to Paris and kind of exploring, and then try some croissants there to see if they're as good as people say they are. So this whole bit about the croissants actually is a segue into today's thought for the day. And the thought for the day is that perception creates reality. Now, your perception is something that you formulate based on things that you observe, or information that you've gathered about a situation, and from that you can create a reality. Let me give you a couple examples. A couple years ago, I was teaching a seminar in China, and I was getting the sense that no one was enjoying themselves. Because these people were just literally just sitting like this, super stoic and super quiet. They didn't laugh at anything. They didn't ask for questions. When I asked for questions, they were just looking really bored and disengaged. So my perception was that, oh wow, I'm really doing a terrible job with this seminar. But the next day I get a bunch of feedback over email saying, that was the greatest seminar we've ever been to. That was super cool. Thank you for coming. And I'm like, oh. Now, if I hadn't gotten that feedback, my perception of the situation had created a reality in which I really sucked at my job and I was failing at life and I was just terrible. But my perception was built on some information or lack of information. I'll give you another example. I dated a girl a while back where she was freaking gorgeous, but she was convinced that she wasn't attractive, and she would spend hours getting dressed, getting redressed, doing her makeup, redoing her makeup. The reality that she created because of her perception was that she needed all this makeup to make herself look pretty, when that wasn't the reality at all. You also will get people who are very self-deprecating in their talk, and they're like, I'm slow, I'm fat, I'm ugly. Well, yeah, you're right then. Because to you, it doesn't matter what kind of compliments I pay you or what kind of encouragement I give you. If you have convinced yourself based on whatever information you've gathered or have created or fabricated that you're worthless, useless, stupid, ugly, fat, all those things, then yes, that's correct in your reality, because that's the reality that you've created. Now, building on what we talked about yesterday, it's important for us to understand that people's perceptions of themselves help form their identity, who they are, why they react to things the way they do, the choices they make, what they value, what their goals are, what their vision is. A lot of that is built on the reality that is created by one's perception of themselves. And if we are endeavoring to understand people, this is something we need to take into account. We do need to take into account the entire picture, because that establishes the context for the person, and it gives us a great insight as to why they are the way they are. As we understand people better, we're going to be much more effective in reaching out to them, making impactful connections, and possibly making friends, resolving conflict, and all the things. So be a study of people. This is how you're able to make progress and to help people in a meaningful way. Hope you guys found this helpful. We'll see you guys next time.